and welcome to my studio. I'm Naomi from Pigeon Art, and today we're going to be doing a sketchbook tour. I have been unsure whether I should do this or not, just because there are some more personal drawings in here. I've decided I can always skip a couple of pages if I need to. This is actually my first sketchbook that I've ever really owned. I used to draw in sketch pads, but that always felt, because they were detachable, they always felt like they had to be perfect, and it felt like a waste if I had to practice runs. I just feel like I've learned a lot from having this sketchbook, and I'm looking forward to sharing the results with you. I have now started my second sketchbook. I am using Nerdforge's sketchbook, and it is one of the most beautiful books in my house, so hopefully, I don't stuff it up too much. Because I have the two cameras, I will be it's a little bit of an issue. Anyway, straight into it. I'm set up with this second camera over here, and we'll see how that goes, whether I keep talking to this camera or probably won't. This is my sketchbook. It is, if you are interested, Jay's art, and it was for drawing and ink work. Okay, so it has two different types of paper. If we're just staring at the paper, not the drawing, you can see that it is quite toothy, hopefully, on one side of that piece of paper, and on this side of the paper it is actually quite smooth. So that was good. Once I worked out that graphite wasn't so good on this side of the paper, I started doing other things on them because it would just rub off. As my channel name is Pigeon Art, and this is my maker's mark, I thought I'd start my first sketchbook with a bird. And I have numbered it on the spine and on here. And I have just put my maker's mark on the back. So that's the covers for you. So my welcome page has my contact details here in case I lose it somewhere. I've got my phone number, which I've covered up, and then welcoming people to my sketchbook with the dates that I started and finished it. It was 11 months of using a sketchbook. I used Posca pen, and it seems to have rubbed off a little bit from here on this side, but otherwise it seemed okay. And it's just a continuation of the front cover, but now there's two of them. And the first page is actually just me just trying to decide what I was going to do about the front page, the welcome page, and the front cover. So this is my first actual page. I was trying to do some people drawings. I wanted to do them scrunched up a bit because I find that quite difficult. Firstly, I find people drawings quite difficult, and then I find doing scrunched up poses quite difficult also. So, and it was just an image I found on Pinterest, so unfortunately I don't have the rights to it, and I probably shouldn't be showing you. This is a line drawing that I did following the photo in our front room. It is also a reference photo that doesn't belong to me. You'll see a few of those throughout, and this one's just with ink, because after I'd done this one I realised that it was going to transfer onto this page, which it hasn't done too badly, but I decided not to do graphite and graphite on that page anyway. That is a line drawing of a tree that we saw in the Blue Mountains. I sometimes put little reminders to myself what it is. I think my friend Joseph took the photo, and then this is a staircase in an Airbnb that we stayed in Currarong, and I took this photo. But I was trying to practice drawing exactly what I was seeing, but as it turns out, when I put the images next to each other, I realised I'd missed a step here, so, but anyway, that's fine. I love spiral staircases. This one was a little bit scary to go up and down on because it was quite steep and quite narrow. Makes for a good photo. I follow Drawing with Waffles, and she does mermaid most years, and I was thinking I might follow that idea, but I only really draw two, and I'm not going to be showing you the second one because it was no good. That was my first attempt. This one is another scrunched up pose from Pinterest. This is a hand study that I did. Most of these are my left hand, They may have all been my left hand. So I was thinking there might have been also images from Pinterest, but I don't think they were. I think that one. That's not my left hand. That must have been an image from Pinterest. I've always found hands difficult. I think everyone can agree with that. So I was pretty happy with that. It still doesn't make making hands any easier, but I was pretty happy with this hand study. This is a line drawing of a reference image from Pinterest as well. And then this is a portrait from Pinterest as well. So I started this with the idea that I'd try and focus on people a lot, faces and just poses and things like that. I wanted to start trying to get different facial features. The reference photo was of a beautiful woman, but I can't say that she looks exactly like her. It looks like a lady, but I don't think it looks like her. These are drawings from photos that I took while we were at an animal park with some friends from France. So we had the kangaroos. Well, these are wallabies, but there were kangaroos in the enclosure as well. This is a place where you can actually feed them. And I want to say macaw, but I don't know, a parrot of some sort. There's also a koala from the same park, which we got to pat. On this side, it was a photo that I took in Kararong. I tried unsuccessfully to replicate it with my watercolor pencils. Now, that set only has about 10 different colors. I was very limited, and obviously it didn't really work, but that's why we practice. On this page, I was just doodling. My niece likes ballet, or liked ballet at the time, and I was trying to think of drawings that I could do for her, which is what those ballet feet were about. And then I also just did some little doodles. I love doing little silhouette drawings. These are all drawings that I've done in the past, and I just wanted to add them to my sketchbook so that I just had a little reminder of them. So this is the actual very first time I played around with these watercolor pencils. I had already drawn that and decided not to add color, but when I realized I really like these watercolor pencils, I thought I'd go back and add the color. So these are my little swatches, and I was just trying to color some leaves that I'd taken a photo of to try and see if I could sort of make it look any good, if this paper would survive it, etc, etc. And the pack also came with these markers, so that's what these are up here. This was another one that I'd just drawn. It was just in graphite and I wasn't going to colour in, but later on, once I'd coloured in something else with them, I came back and added my watercolour pencils on here, on this guy as well. Now, this is my mum's dog. He's a real cutie. His name's Rudy, little schnauzer. Honestly, I don't really remember what's going on here in these two pages. I think I just needed a little bit of a doodle for this one. That is obviously a reindeer. No? Yeah? Reindeer? Stag? Stag. I must have been in the mood to draw a stag. This is a drawing I did when I was watching Drawing with Waffles. I was just following her lines, so obviously all credit goes to her. This was a start to a artwork, which I just gave up on. Oh, that's right. I was trying to see if I still liked these old watercolor pencil set that I had, which were just for kids. And as you can see, I gave up quite quickly and decided to get rid of them. Another doodle page. I think you know what I was watching. I think I might have been watching some fan theories on YouTube, because there's Star Wars ones. Bruno is all about Encanto, Gandalf. So yeah, I think that might have been it. Sometimes when I'm in those moods, if I hear a word and I'm wanting to practice my letters or something, I'll just write random words. Goody was the Wednesday. So yeah, I was probably watching a few different videos on different shows. Another hand that was mine. See the resemblance? Just wanted to make sure I still had the ability to draw a hand. And then these are a couple more Pinterest scrunched up poses, as I would call them. It must have been coming to winter because I was in a cozy mood, so I found reference photos with warm elements, like a warm jumper, a beanie, a mug, that sort of thing. Another hand, that was from a photo that my friend Joseph took. It was actually my hand. You can't tell here, but it is a reflection of my hand on a little creek, I think it might have been, and there were little dimples because I was touching the water. Now, this one over here was a photo of my nephew that my friend Joseph, again, she's a great photographer, took. And he was holding a teddy bear, so you can see his hand there. His face was there, but every time I tried to draw his face, it looked too creepy, so I've sort of just left the impression of eyes and left it at that. I don't know if there's many people out there, but if you've watched all of my videos, you would know what these are about. This was a sign that I made for my background, and I just wanted to make sure I was happy with the spacing and the lettering and stuff like that. It looks better on the sign. And this one was just a little artwork that I did of a bird, and these are the colors that I used in a sketch. So this sketch ended up better than the actual painting, finished painting. What can you do? This is a Harry Potter inspired spread. I was sort of trying to find a way to illustrate the four marauders. We've got Padfoot, Prongs, Wormtail, and Moody. And then I love the Marauders map, so I did the little drawings of the feet. I think I remember why I was drawing this in the first place. I would like to try and redo my Marauders map that I did a couple of years ago, I think, on this channel. I'd done it just quickly to use in a video, but I would like to try it and do it again. I have a friend who actually has a Marauders map that is the official one, so I might ask her to borrow it if I can. So having done all of this on this side, I decided to draw more Harry Potter inspired things. So this is another Pinterest image of a spiral staircase. It just made me think of what Harry and his fellow Gryffindor classmates would be going up and down each day to their dormitory. There's a wand. That's from the movie. Hard to tell probably, but this is Notre Dame. It was a perspective practice for me. A little bit of paint got on from the next page, but the image I used was from a magazine. And as you can see, it was taken from above. I wasn't going for details or anything like that. I was just plainly trying to get the perspective right. This is what the streets lights look like around Notre Dame. The piece was about Notre Dame going up in flames a few years ago, as we all remember, but they also had images of the streets. So I decided to do a line drawing of that. I think this was the first time in this sketchbook that I decided to try painting in it. And I decided to do it on the more textured pages. So this was just a painting of a photo I took that is just down the street from us. It's a little creek. I was just trying to see how the paint would go in the sketchbook. And I had leftover colors on my palette, so I decided to just do a bird from, I think that might have been a reference image from Pixabay, which is a royalty-free or free domain website for images. So if you ever need reference images, that is a good place to go. And I think from then on I tried to only stick to Pixabay images, reference images, whereas up until then I'd been looking at Pinterest. So these are some little Zentangles. This one was done after watching Mira Byler's, I think it might have been a how to fill your sketchbooks or sketchbook ideas sort of thing, and I quite liked it, so I tried it out for myself. And this one was just some abstract lines that ended up looking a bit flowery in some places, so I sort of went with it. I really love this spread. I had been sent flowers, which were all mostly Australian natives, so I decided I was going to do a quick sketch of it. I don't think I used pencil at all, it was just pen, so that allows you to be much more free because you're not trying to get it perfect, you're just sort of scribbling, you know. And as you can see, that is the theme of this spread. I think I got again, reference images from Pixabay this time. Oh, and I went with bird-themed things, so a nest and a feather. And I just had this little free spot, so I found this little cartoony bird, which I decided to do a very quick sketch of as well from Pixabay. This was interesting. So Luke flew into Hobart for work, and he took this photo, and actually this part of it is our land. So, you know, it means something to us. I'll show you the photo. I decided I'd try and paint it. And that was quite difficult. The ugly stage lasted way too long. And look, I'm happy enough with it, but it's not what I was hoping for. But I decided to stop while I was happy with it. This is the day that I'd received some Copic markers that I bought. I do not have the kinds of funds it takes to buy a full set of Copic markers. I mean, I could afford it, but we're trying to save for a house, so to put on our land, so that is not a priority for me. Copic markers are quite expensive, but they are also really good. So when I was shopping for other things on this art website, I saw that some of their Chow Copic markers were discounted, and that's when I jumped on the opportunity to own some. These are the 13 colours that I currently own. I actually had bought, I think, just this many, and I have since, while doing more shopping, bought another couple who had gone down in price as well. So I've added them to the swatch page. Just because I'd been painting that on this side, I decided to try my blending technique and see how they would go on this paper. I decided not to continue drawing on this paper just because it seemed to suck in a lot of the colour. Copic markers will bleed onto the other side on any paper, but it just seemed extra on this paper because it's not really made for them. So, like I said, Copic markers will bleed to the other side. I decided to just glue in another artwork that I'd done that was framed, but I needed the frame for it, so I just glued it in. It is now part of my sketchbook. On this side, I was watching a YouTube video on the couch one day, and it was about Kung Fu Panda. I was actually trying to draw these without pausing anything, so from the moving images. So as you can see, I didn't quite get his proportions right or anything. I think I've shown this one on the channel before, but another page of practicing acrylic paints. On this side, I was practicing water, which is really hard to do. I mean, some people probably find it easy, but they would have practiced and practiced. And then on this side, I was practicing mountains, but in a really sketchy, impressionist way. I really like this spread. This is a spread of the same drawing done 4 times, and I played around with the different proportions and the lines and the type of angles that I used to get different styles. So the image I'll put up on the screen was from Pixabay. Another thing that I wanted to work on was birds in this sketchbook. With these, I again used images from Pixabay. I don't think I used pencils at all on this one, so you can see my way of getting the right angle. Okay, so before I go to the next page, I need to give you a warning because there are insects on them. So if you are not keen on insects or critters, please skip to the next page, but I'm going to turn it now. I wanted to do a little bit of a insect study just because they're very interesting. I think I started with the bee and then I decided to, you know, add a few more. And this is a spider, although it wasn't very well drawn, so you maybe can't tell. And on this side, I thought, what likes insects? Lizards. Not a very well drawn lizard. Still practicing. People who don't like insects, you can look back over. This is a Zentangle of an owl that I found on, I think the reference image I was using was on Pixabay again. I just used the outline that they were using and then I did my own little scribbles in the middle. And then next to it is my sister's dog, Hugo. So my mum and my sister have dogs from the same litter, so Hugo and Rudy, and they're just the cutest. Okay, this is when I started to really practice my watercolor pencils. I had been stuck because I didn't know what to use my watercolor pencils for because I would have a very limited number of them. But then I realized that the colors would be perfect for a rainbow lorikeet. I found 2 images of rainbow lorikeets on Pixabay. What I ended up doing, this is what this looked like after the first layer, or 1 or 2 layers. But with this one I ended up just layering and adding a bit of different colors into it and shadows and stuff like that. And this one I wanted to keep this way just because I quite like the look of it as well, and it sort of shows what you can do if you put in more work from the first layer. Again, the bouquet, I took lots of photos of it when it was before I dried it. I decided to keep it really loose and detail free, so that's what that is there. This is of a painting that I took in the Sydney Botanical Gardens of a beautiful old tree that's in there, so I will pop that on the screen for you as well. Okay, so still with the bouquet, this is when I received my Prismacoloured pencils. You might not be able to tell, but this is a page with the toothy texture. So it used a lot of pencil. Prismacoloured pencils are wax-based and they're really buttery soft. You do go through them very quickly, but it allows you to blend. I have decided not to ever draw with my Prismacoloured pencils on something quite so textured as this because it did use up a lot of my pencil, especially the blue one that I used for that, or the blue ones that I used for that. And this one, I'd drawn that with the idea of doing the same thing as that, but I changed my mind and just decided to outline it with one of my favorite colored pencils. So this is when I decided I needed to practice a little bit to see what my left-handed skills were like, just to get an idea of what my left-handed series might look like. So that's just a schnauzer, as you can tell. That's my maker's mark. That's just a bird. And this is the wallabies that I'd drawn earlier. So I like drawing it with my right hand first so I can get an idea of what I was aiming for on the other page. Okay, so remember how I said I decided I wasn't going to use my Prismacolors on the textured surface? Well, I lied. This is I think it's a type of lily that I saw on one of my walks, one of my neighbours' front yard, and I took a photo of it because I really liked it. And when I drew it, it was just not obvious what it was with just line drawing, so I did decide to go in and just lightly add a bit of colour so you can tell what's meant to happen there. With this one, I used the watercoloured pencils as a base layer because see how you can see all that white if you don't press hard on the pencil? That allows you to not see the white poke through because the watercolour pencil, it becomes sort of like an ink or a watercolour, so you can drag it over the ridges and the bumps in the paper. That's why I was okay with just adding a little bit of Prismacoloured pencil on top. It was mostly to get the contrast and the shadows and a bit of detail in the leaves. Most of it was actually watercoloured pencil. Here is one of my lefty-righty pages. That was a line drawing that I did of Benji, the dog that we fostered for a few months, who has now been adopted. So that's nice. I hope he's enjoying his new family. This is the drawing of him with my left hands. You may recognize these two, or at least one of them. I decided to do some water studies because I'm still trying to practice water and I'm still not thrilled with my results. I started with this page, I marked it off and added some gesso. I also wanted to try out some gesso because I'd bought some. But after I'd put the gesso on, I read the back of it and it said to leave it to dry for 24 hours. So I moved onto this page for the first video and started painting on this one first. And then in the next video, I went back to this page the next week after that and painted this one. This is my next lefty-righty drawing of a bird. So I think we've seen this bird earlier in my sketchbook as well. It was getting a little bit easier with my left hand, but not always. Still kept it quite simple by then. And then I decided to step it up a notch. That's a photo that I took of a flower in our backyard. I think it's a weed, but it's beautiful. So, and that meant a lot more wiggly lines. Once I'd done that, I decided to stick to easier lines to draw and went with this cute little cow drawings, because cows are great. We love cows here. Once I'd drawn the cow once, I thought, let's try doing that first drawing again. I simplified it a bit, but you know, you can see it's the same one. Again, right hand, left hand. So this is when I realized I was getting near the end of my sketchbook and I might want to do a farewell page to my sketchbook. So these were some drawings that I made, and I decided to keep it with the theme of the birds. So here's what I ended up with. This is when I started spending more time on my Prismacoloured pencils. Okay, so on this side you've got Benji, who had a very long tongue, and I took this photo one day. I just happened to have his tongue out. Just a simple line drawing and a bit of a cartoony feel. On this side, I believe this might still be a Pinterest image, but would have been because I couldn't find what I was looking for on Pixabay. But yeah, this is where I did a lot of practice with the layering, adding different colours and shades to get the effect of, you know, rust or what have you. And I'm really happy with that. I think that's one of the best things I had done up until then. This was a video. This was a left painted and right painted, and I actually painted at the same time so I'd have the right colours. And honestly, I don't hate either of them. It was a hard image, I don't know what I was thinking. So you can watch the video, I will link it in the description. Okay, more Benji. Benji was a really cute dog, and I was trying to get a lot of photos to help them with the adoption process. So I ended up with a lot of photos in my phone, and I continued with the line drawings. These, I don't know if they were from Pixabay or Pinterest. I love mushrooms and they're the cutest, so I drew a mushroom house from a reference image. And then on this side, I wanted to keep the mushroom theme, so I found this cross-hatch sketch and I started with these ones, so I added a couple more types of mushrooms there. After doing that door, I wanted to keep practicing my Prismacolor pencil skills. And I used a reference photo. Again, I'm not sure where from. I think it was from Pixabay. So started with this side and I did 2 door handles. But this one I decided to keep quite simple compared to this one, just because I wanted to focus on the handle rather than the whole door. These are some more Zentangles. I was just following some line drawings, possibly from Pixabay as well. And these were supposed to be clouds, but they look a bit like shells. Anzac Day is on the 25th of April. This wasn't drawn on that day, I drew it earlier just so I'd be ready for it. But I wanted to commemorate it with a drawing with my Prismacoloured pencils. So I found an image of a poppy on Pixabay, and I did some swatches just so I could find the right colours that I was looking for. And then I practiced the lettering that I was going to use on this side as well. Okay, this is when we start getting to my Tasmania trip. This was in Queenstown. This was actually of an image that I took. So the reference photo was of a half door. If I was standing next to it, that would only be going up to my hip sort of thing, in a building. When we were in Queenstown, we went on the steam train. That was just a line drawing. I am not super happy with that drawing. I'm practicing drawing what I'm seeing, but obviously need more practice. And then this was a recent video, 2 recent videos. So I did this one in one that was in Queenstown, from the view from the main street, and that was near Hobart at one of the wineries there. And that is of our land. You can watch those videos after this one if you like. That was at one of the wineries, probably the same, actually I believe it was the same one as this one. Inside the cellar door they had this beautiful arrangement of flowers, and I wanted to give it a go and see if I could ink it. So I actually planned on just using this page, but as I realized I was drawing away, I realized that I would need more space, so I went on to the next page. Compositionally, I quite like that, but after that I started using the spreads as one page as opposed to 2 pages. This is my father-in-law's dog, Charlie. As you can see, he's a cutie. Big Maremma, so you can't probably tell from the drawing. Again, was going a bit cartoonish. I just like drawing dogs because I love them. And my last page before the farewell page is of a giraffe. I love giraffes. I've decided that all of my sketchbooks must have a giraffe in them. So here she is. And I've gone with a cross-hatching style, and then I realized I need a little bit more color, so I went over really cross-hatchy as well style with a couple of colored pencils. And then of course we've already seen this, but there's the goodbye page and the end of my sketchbook. Let me know what you thought of my sketchbook. I wanted to be super transparent about it. Like, there's a lot of artwork on there that I haven't shown on social media, and I would prefer not to show. But it's how you learn. You need to make bad artworks to get better. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to give it a like. It really helps me out. I upload most Sundays with art, DIY and sewing videos, and I hope to see you then. Bye!